Gareth Southgate, Gareth Bale, the Arsenal squad, Trevor, they've all held talks in the last week over potential social media boycotts, but nobody has actually followed through in it yet. Now, of course, it was meant to be a bit of a game-changing move and was seen as such when Thierry Henry came off Twitter last week. We covered that as it happened on the show. I think it was on Thursday or Friday there. But already, has Thierry's stance lost impetus, would you say?
I think so. I think it's a missed opportunity from players, from football clubs, from, I think, the governing bodies. I feel everyone could have took that same stance. Now, I understand the amount of people that are involved. There's jobs involved when you start talking about football clubs. But I think this was an opportunity for football as a whole to go against social media and what social media is allowing with racism, hate on the social media platforms. And I think if enough of football did come off social media, it could start a domino effect and it could be a catalyst to other sports in America.
You think these social media companies are too big, Simon, don't you?
I do, yeah.
That's a problem, Trevor. What impact will it make? I mean, how damaged are they by Thierry coming off it?
There's so much at jeopardy here.
But what if then...
You're right.
What if the president is set then and then superstars start coming off in support for...
Oh, I agree.
But they took a president off. I mean, social media companies took a president offline. Right? They're not going to look at piddly-pop sports stars that have got a few million followers as the driving factor. Now, the reality of it is that there's a bigger challenge about how social media companies are governed and that lack of publishing rights and all the battles that are going on, the Online Harms Act.
Yeah.
Thierry Henry is right to do what he's done. Yeah. And he may yet prove to be precipitous. Not everything happens instantaneously. It takes a while for people to percolate and go, he's done it, I'm going to do it now. It doesn't have to happen. You don't have to have a gold rush instantaneously. I think he will start a land rush. I think he will be an influencer to people that say, first of all, I don't need social media. I do it because I choose to. And if I choose to do something, then I'm not going to have that kind of nonsense on my social media platform. And I think he will start. And I think you will see people like LeBron James and other people coming out, start saying, actually, no, thank you, not for me.
Yeah.
And you'll see it.
We're a few days into it, Simon. I am genuinely surprised that others haven't followed. I mean, you quite rightly mentioned, like, Trump had 89 million followers on Twitter. Now, they take him out of the equation. What difference does it make? I mean, at the end of the day, if Cristiano Ronaldo was to come off Twitter today, he's got 92 million followers. That would just be one other individual. Does it not need the football industry to say, do you know what? For the time being, we're all off this thing. And we're not back on it until we decide.
I think that shows solidarity, and I think it would be very powerful. And that could be, like I said, the catalyst to other stars from other sports coming away from social media. And before you know it, what are people on social media for?
But it has to be because people want to.
I understand that, Simon. Because it's not being pressured into it, or they feel like they're going to be criticised if they don't come off social media.
If we make it, the ideal scenario would be the Premier League said enough now, right? We want all the clubs, and all the players to come offline. Right? Yeah. So we're going to take millions and millions of traffic out of the event, right? Yeah. We'll make it. It'll be a pimple on a backside somewhere, but it will make a noise, and the media will pick it up, and it will start to get momentum. Right? The challenge is that, and I've always called it out and said, if you really dislike this as much as you say you do, then have the courage of your convictions and affect yourself as much as people are affecting you. 100%. By coming off social media, you take away some of the commercial opportunities for yourself, you take away some of the ability to leverage your reputation and your brand, but this must mean something to you, so if it must mean something to you, you have to make a sacrifice. You shouldn't have to, but in this world, sometimes you do have to. And that becomes the bigger question. You can't cry wolf. You can't have people turning around and saying, and I'm not suggesting that people are crying wolf about racism, I'm saying if this affects you as much as you say it does, then come off social media. You really, existed before.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Simon, but really, you should... I mean, that, in a way, that's defeatist, because what you're saying is, because there's people out there who are coming out with this ridiculous racism and hatred online and not having accountability, that they're winning by coming off it. So there's a flip side to that.
Cherry didn't think it was defeatist.
No, I understand that. There's two arguments to this.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it and think, I'm going to come off this because there's too much hatred on here, there's too much racism,
But that's learning to live with something. I'm in that camp to some extent, right? That's basically learning to live with something, accept that the world's an imperfect place, right? And the pursuit of a zero COVID policy and the elimination of every fragment of racism is probably idealistic, right? Because we live in a flawed world. But people have to take stances and have to make changes, and they have to be brave enough to do it. And
I hope Thierry Henry is a catalyst.
And I think
at the moment, it looks
more
like
people will do it.
The wind.
The challenge is, what we really want the social media companies to do is to turn around and say, take away anonymity, or increase verification, or stop people from seeing anonymous people if they don't want to. Because 90% of the abuse comes from anonymous cowards, right? And if you don't want to see those people, they're whistling in the dark. So it's easy. Build an algorithm that says when Trevor Sinclair signs up for XYZ social media platform, he elects to see or not see people that are anonymous. Anyway. You can't choose not to see anonymous people. But you can choose to turn off DMs from people that don't follow you, but you can't choose to not see people that have an anonymous profile. Put that in place, all of a sudden, these ridiculous, absurd know-nothings will be barking in the
I just
wind.
don't understand why social media companies are dragging the feet with this.
About publishing, Trev. They don't want to start a blueprint which basically says we're responsible for what goes on our site. Because they hide behind they're not publishers. Yeah. The moment you start that, it starts to unravel. In America, under Section 230, under the Online Communication Acts in America, that's why they're fighting it. I mean, that's why they're fighting it.
Really, but it boils down to how much impact has it had that Henry came off Twitter the other day. I mean, when you look at it, Trevor, the top 20 most followed accounts on Twitter, how many footballers are in that top 20, would you say?
One.
But here's the thing, Jim.
One. Ronaldo. He's fifth with 92 million.
How much noise can they make? Because Marcus Rashford made an inordinate amount of noise that changed the government. And people change the momentum in countries. They change governments in the end. So if enough noise is made by people like Thierry Henry, then you get the next guy. Guys like us keep them at the fore. It keeps on coming up on media stations and it builds up momentum. Yeah. So that's the point that's being made.
So does it need the man at the very top of the chart to come off it? Barack Obama, number one. 130 million followers. Does he need to say, I've heard about this Thierry Henry thing? He must be thinking about it, surely.
Very influential.
What an impact that would make.
Very influential person. A lot of people look up to him. Obviously, he's got 130 million followers. Yeah. I think if he took that stance, that would expedite things.
Then all of a sudden things would change.
Depends upon your view. Here's another argument. Do you change more from being inside the framework or from being outside throwing stones in? Which argument do you want to run? The argument of coming off something makes an instantaneous statement. The argument of being effective within the confines of it and keep on railing whilst you're inside it actually has as much noise. I've never understood people coming out and throwing stones from the outside. It sometimes makes little difference because no one listens to you from the outside. When you're inside with influence, you can run both arguments.
I mean, is it having enough effect at the moment, Trevor? Well, that's the bottom line.
We're talking about it. It made the news. It made the papers. So it's definitely...
So he's done his job, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Thierry Henry's not going to miss social media. He's got media at his, there anyway that he can use.
Exactly.
He holds a press conference. There'll be plenty of media that turn up.
But is it going to be enough to...
respected?
Do you think he did this? Let's turn the question on its head. Do we think that he did this to create this effect of being able to have people following behind him, or do you think that Thierry Henry just said, enough for me, I'm not interested anymore? What was the motivation behind it?
I think a bit of both. I think he's had enough of reading the absolute garbage that's being put on social media, but also he wanted to send a message and hope that it could be a catalyst for people to follow. Well, not really, because it takes time, like you said, Simon. It might take time, but I think if enough people do this, and Gareth Southgate talking about it, Gareth Bale talking about it, they're influential people, obviously in England and Wales.
Was the world a better place without it?
Absolutely.
100%.
It's a cesspit.
But the world was a better place without mobile phones.
It's a public domain environment full of a large proportion of antisocial people. It brings out the worst in society at times.
Keyboard warriors.
Absolutely the worst. But then, of course, the other argument is Marcus Rashford utilised it, and we've got children being fed better at schools.
Yeah.